We are live.
Hello and welcome to OWASP Oakland County, the second chapter meeting of the year, 2021. Thanks to MySec for hosting and for Uber Ether for providing the Zoom session. OWASP Oakland County meets quarterly. This is our second talk for the year. The next meeting is in August. For all you who are new to OWASP, OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. It is a nonprofit foundation that works to improve the security of software through the community-led open source software projects, hundreds of local chapters worldwide, which we are one of. Go to owasp.org to learn more or become a member. OWASP talks are free and for all to attend. If you'd like to give an OWASP talk, go ahead and hit me up on the MySec Slack channel, or you can hit me up on Twitter. My handle is nullspace. That's NULLSPACE. And announcements for MySec. We are hosted by them. Thanks again. They meet bi-monthly, one meeting, one social meetup per chapter. I believe there are 4 currently running chapters. The one we are using right now is the Southfield chapter meeting, which is they meet the second Thursday of every month for talks. The last Thursday of the month is social. Ann Arbor, they meet the second Monday of the month and the last Monday of the month for social. Jackson is the second Tuesday of the month for talk and the last Tuesday of the month for social. Lansing is second Wednesday of the month for talk and the last Wednesday of the month for social. For events, the only thing I have is DEF CON. That's August 5th to the 8th. They're going to be in a hybrid model. Be cool to see any of you there virtually. Good luck to you those that meet in person. I don't think we don't have any other events, so on to our speaker. Why don't you take it away?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Apurva, and I lead application security for Duo Security, which is a part of Cisco. So first of all, thank you for attending this meeting today. And special thanks to Stephen for this opportunity for me to be able to share my ideas so that all of us can talk about how to get this right. So today, we are here to talk about building a sustainable AppSec program. A little about me is I started my career as a developer, and then I decided to do a master's in computer science. And I took one course, found that I liked security and that I was good at it. And then I started working as a security consultant at one of the top consulting firms based out of DC, Cigital. Cigital was acquired by Synopsys. And during my consulting career, I worked with a lot of Fortune 500 clients on a variety of engagements. Everything from like code reviews to hands-on testing to security automation to program level engagements. About 2 years ago, I joined Duo Security to help lead the application security program. So we are here to talk about building an AppSec program. And so today we're going to be talking about 5 main building blocks that help create and maintain an application security program. But before we talk about the building blocks, let's spend some time to identify why do we need to talk about this. Security has been, going on for like so long. And yet here we are today, still talking about what does a good program look like. So why does it need to evolve? Now, as engineering is moving towards faster, agile development life cycles with DevOps, sprint planning, release frequencies are increasing. Development and deployment are being fully automated. So the boundaries between traditional development, test, QA, production support, SRE, all of the boundaries here between these teams are getting dissolved. They're merging. And yet, in most organizations, all security decisions are still siloed. You still have a traditional security team that's making all of these decisions, go live or not go live. Usually, security testing It means, maybe running a few scans for the entire development lifecycle, or maybe just executing like a pen test before production. And so engineering either now delays their production release because the pen test is not done, or because the pen test finds critical issues, or it just skips application security entirely because they're too slow. And so to ensure release of safe and secure products, something needs to change. Some change is necessary. And okay. And the first change, the hardest change, is mindset. AppSec and engineering must work more closely with each other. They have to work together to streamline processes, workflows, garnering program level requirements from engineering and products, and getting them to help set AppSec priorities is essential, because engineering and products are your direct stakeholders. They are customer zero for application security. AppSec also needs to have a voice in engineering and products setting priorities for features, because AppSec, to a large extent, especially at Duo, we are also customer zero for the products that Duo creates. And all of this is not going to be successful if it's looked only as an AppSec initiative. We need everybody's support, because security is everybody's responsibility. AppSec is only a facilitator. It's only an enabler. AppSec is the team that researches and provides security solutions. But it is everybody's responsibility to review them, to help ensure that we are solving the right problems with the right solutions, and then help extend and maintain it. And so as we work together, we start collaborating, defining each other's scopes and responsibilities. The AppSec team needs to evolve to become enablers, not blockers. So how can I, as AppSec, help engineering meet their timelines in a safe and secure manner? So not everything can be, a critical risk. Not everything can be either a 0 or a 100. You have to meet in between to see how can you still enable production release in a secure manner. And engineering, you have to get AppSec involved sooner. You cannot engage AppSec, a week before production release and then expect them to sort of respect your timelines, because AppSec too needs some time. And so it has to be collaboration where engineering gets AppSec engaged sooner, and AppSec is also there to see how can we enable production release. So our definitions for product readiness have to evolve. Quality software is only possible when security requirements have the same weightage as business requirements. And a feature is done only when all of the critical functional bugs and the security bugs have been fixed. Nothing gets released unless and until critical security bugs have been fixed. So the next building block that we're going to talk about is building security in. The era of just having like a web application firewall and then, calling it done, that's gone. It no longer works, because we have to now look at how can we build security in at every stage of the product development lifecycle. AppSec has to be a consideration at each and every phase of the software development lifecycle. So how do we do it? So if you look at a secure SDLC, the first thing, which is an ongoing thing, that's security training. AppSec education is an activity that has to happen constantly. It has to happen regularly. We will be talking a little more about AppSec training in a little bit. Then, when business requirements are being created, AppSec can help by looking at security requirements. These are the requirements, as I said, that have to be at par with business requirements. The next thing that happens when the features are being designed is AppSec can start reviewing the design. They can start creating threat models. It's essential that application security and engineering, they collaborate and create and maintain the threat model. If AppSec is the only team that is in charge of creating and maintaining the threat models, it's never going to be maintained. The threat model is going to be, five times lagging behind than the features and the products. And so we have to evolve such that engineering owns the threat model. But AppSec is still there as an SME to help update the threat model. When the product is being implemented, it can also start being tested for security vulnerabilities by using automated test techniques like static analysis, software composition analysis. We will be talking about these techniques in a little bit. Then, as the application is now being deployed in a test environment, along with the normal functional testing, integration testing, it can also undergo more security testing like dynamic analysis, pen testing. At this time, you can also test the environment, the infrastructure, especially as applications are now moving towards, or environments are now moving towards IAC, infrastructure as code. You can also start testing, your containers, hardening checks. You can automate your hardening checks. You can have infrastructure pipelines running in conjunction with application pipelines. And lastly, as the application is deployed to production, there is something called as a RASP, which is similar to a web application firewall, but it's supposed to be more intelligent. That is protecting your application 24/7. Now, all of this, it's like a mega set. This is everything that you could possibly do to build security in. And it is often not feasible to do all of this at one go. So the AppSec team has to prioritize which strategy works best for which organization, for your organization. And you have to prioritize them appropriately. For example, right now at Duo, we are working on our threat modeling methodology. We're working on our threat modeling offering. We prioritize that more than security requirements. And so we decided for our organization, threat modeling is important, or it has to be prioritized higher than having an offering for security requirements. The basic goal here is that at every stage of the SDLC, you're thinking about security. Now, that was a lot. So how do you make all of this feasible? And that's why we need to start looking at security automation. Investing in automated tools and techniques and enable them, but keyword, again, collaboratively. So what are the advantages of security automation? First of all, it is cost effective because bugs are discovered and they are remediated early in the SDLC, in the life cycle. Engineers also gain better application security with limited friction. And all of the various touch points that we saw in the earlier workflow, they ensure that the application is being tested for security issues at the right time. It also facilitates collaborative change because we are making sure that the release frequency and the efficiency is maintained with all of the automation. And so now security can be a part of the release criteria. And of course, your compliance team is happy because there is no heavy lifting needed. As you enable all of this, you also satisfy compliance checks. And then it also ensures that AppSec is able to scale and match and at least come closer to engineering timelines. Because I'm sure in everywhere, in all organizations, AppSec is always complaining about resources. So, how do we do it? The first important thing is to determine the right testing technique that works for your organization. We talked a little bit about static analysis, software composition analysis, and dynamic analysis. So static analysis is a technique that finds vulnerabilities in your code base. And because the tool finds vulnerabilities in the code base that you create, that you have, that you develop in your organization, the tool needs to understand what framework are you using, what platform is it based on, what language is it. And so your tool needs to support the language that you're using. It needs to have support for the framework that you're using. When we talk about software composition analysis, this is a technique that is figuring out for all of the third-party libraries that you use in your products. Have there been any security vulnerabilities already publicly reported for it? Have there been any security vulnerabilities discovered? And so this tooling is checking some of the public databases to see if there have been any CVs reported against the third-party libraries. And so the tooling, the SCA tooling, it needs to understand how do you build your application? Because when you build your application, that's how it recognizes, it knows of all of the libraries that you use in your product. And so it needs to know, if you're using a Maven package builder, if you're using a Gradle package builder, it needs to know how to build your product. And so it needs to recognize your package builder. And lastly, when you come to dynamic analysis, this is a technique that finds vulnerabilities in a deployed application. So it's finding vulnerabilities using, it will send requests and then it will monitor, it will evaluate the responses that the application is sending to determine if the attack was successful or not. So these DAS toolings don't need to actively have support for the framework, but it's good if it has, because then it can customize some of the rule sets that it's using, some of the attack vectors that it's using. So once you decide on the testing technique, now it's time to choose a tool. I have seen in my consulting career a lot of customers that used to choose, one of the top, the leaders in the space, acquire a tool from them, deploy it, roll it out, make it available to everybody, and call it done. And then a few months, years later, they would find it ineffective because not everybody knows how to use it, not everybody can use it effectively. And so then, take it out and then purchase another tool, another leader, deploy it. Honestly, most of the tools are pretty similar to each other. If one tool has extensive support for maybe Python, another tool is going to be really great at C++. And so it is really important that you compare, you POC them, you contrast the tools, their features, their performances on your applications in your environment. About, I think, a year ago or so, we were looking for a static analysis tool at Duo. And we used some of our Duo code bases to get a POC going. One of the leaders in the space wasn't even able to compile some of our projects easily. And so it is very important that you use a product that is able to work on your code bases in your environment. Another thing to note here is a lot of the tooling companies, they will use the common test benchmark projects. So they will make sure that their toolings work for the benchmark projects. And so using these test benchmark projects will not give you an accurate picture of how the tool is going to perform on your applications. So make sure to use your applications to POC them. Now you've figured the right testing technique, you have the right tool. What next? The next thing is to look at how do you want to use the tool? How will you invoke the tool? And so think about all of the multiple workflows that you could possibly enable. So at Duo, we are currently working on our SCA strategy, and we've come up with a few different workflows. So one of our workflows is ad hoc on-demand testing. So let's say supposing we have engineers who want to test a new library. They want to consider a new library to add to their projects. So this is a platform, this is a workflow where it's a self-service workflow. So they can come in, they can see what issues, what vulnerabilities does the library have. They can test it themselves, determine if they want to use it or not, and then go ahead with their work. Another workflow that we've implemented is scheduled scanning. So we already have our jobs set up, and every week these jobs execute to figure out, to determine if any new security vulnerabilities have been reported against those libraries. The third workflow that we're working on is pipeline scans. So we use GitLab, and so this is embedding an SCA scan within our CI/CD environment that engineers have. So every time there is a new check-in, every time a library has been updated or a new library is being used, we can trigger a new SCA scan from our CI/CD environment itself. And then the last one is, as security teams, we need to know what are all of the libraries that we are using internally. What does a repository look like? And so the last workflow is making sure that we are updating all of our inventory. So for every strategy, for every tool testing technique, and for every tooling, always consider what are all of the different ways in which this tool can be invoked to get a new scan result. The next thing to do is customizing the tools. Default settings rarely work for all applications and all environments. So it is very important to make sure that you're customizing, you're fine-tuning all of these tools. For example, if your static analysis scan, it's taking 4 hours to execute, you cannot put that in a pipeline. If your pipeline executes, if a pipeline job, an engineering pipeline job executes for like 5 minutes, you cannot have a static analysis scan that takes 4 hours to complete, especially if it's a blocking scan. When I was doing consulting, I was talking to this client once where they talked about having nightly scans. And that's awesome that a scan executes every night and you have the results every morning. That's terrific. But then who is looking at the results in the morning? Who is looking at the results every morning to figure out if new vulnerabilities, if new issues have been reported? Nobody, because nobody has time to look at this every single morning. So then what is the use of scanning so frequently? And so make every scan result count. Do not execute scans for the sake of executing scans. Execute a scan, but then make sure that the result is counted. Make sure that the scan run is counted. This config YAML file that's on the slide is a very simple example of how we customized one of our toolings. And so in this case, we said that we want to skip some of the rule sets that we felt were of no security value. And so we don't want to execute them, so we just skip them. We also excluded some of our test paths, some of our test folders. So we do not even scan our test folders. And so this is a very simple example of how you could customize your settings for the tool. Now that you are running tools, what next? Now you're getting defects. What do you do with the defects? I have worked with a lot of application security teams that have one tool for all security issues that nobody else has access to because it is all high risk. So only the security team has access to all of the issues, security issues, and they will send like a PDF email to developers. But if engineers, if product managers do not have full access to their defects, to the defects in their products, how are they even going to be able to prioritize them? How are they going to feel a shared ownership if they can't even see all of them? And so it is essential that you use a tool that engineers are already familiar with. It is essential that you use a tool that they use for their defect management. Because what happens when you send them a PDF? The PDF goes into their email box. It's probably going to stay there for a long time. When they have a little bit of free time, they're going to look at the PDF, they're going to triage it, and then they're going to create tickets manually within the defect management. So why not hook up your toolings to the defect management itself and send them directly? The next thing is dashboard. So if you look at all of the security commercial toolings, all of them, or at least most of them, have their own dashboards. Now, if I, as AppSec or even engineering, I am executing 5 tools, it is not feasible for me to go look at all of the 5 different dashboards. And so you cannot expect me to go to 5 different dashboards to understand my security posture. And so can you use one dashboard where all of the security issues now go to that dashboard? So it's easy for me to understand my security posture on that one dashboard. And lastly, breaking the builds. If engineering is breaking the build for a functional issue, for a functional bug, can we get to a stage where a security issue also breaks the build? Now, this is not going to be from day one, but you have to start looking at a future. You have to start looking at a phased approach where you go towards breaking the builds for security issues, just like you were doing them for functional issues. So that's about security automation as a building block. The next building block that we're going to be talking about is education. When you teach engineers to code securely in the first place, you're saving all of that time and effort remediating those issues later in the SDLC. So, when you start talking about application security trainings, what are some of the things that are criteria that you have to consider? The first thing to start looking into is, who is the audience? Are you looking at trainings for your engineers? If so, then they have to be more code-centric. They have to be more detailed. They have to be more technical, hands-on. Are you looking for trainings for your product managers? If so, they maybe do not have to be so hands-on or so technical. So Who are you creating trainings for? The audience is important. And then when you start looking at creating trainings in-house, you also have to start looking at how are you going to, do you have resources to maintain them, to update them frequently? Do you have resources to create refresher courses, annually or 6 monthly or biannually at some cadence that you feel is right for your organization? And so there are all of these criteria that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at a training program. There are many vendors now who have this, who have training programs. You also have a lot of information online. So instead of creating an OWASP top 10 training in-house, why not just look at the resources? Can you leverage them? We talked about adding a lot of things today for application security. But how do you even do all of this? How do you even implement and maintain all of this with a team of like 5 AppSec people to support like 100 engineers? Simple, just recruit more engineers. So security champions are members of the organization that work as security liaisons. How do you get a security champions program? The first thing that you need to do is you need to teach them. You need to teach them application security basics. Teach them how do you triage code? How do you review code for security issues? How do you onboard, customize applications on toolings? And then empower them to do these things in their own teams, empower them to be that first wall of defense for all security decisions. Keep them motivated by maybe offering, opportunities to train with the security team, or maybe have a different designation for them, maybe offer them some monetary benefits. So keep them motivated to perform all of these extra functions. They are a mechanism for the AppSec team to scale their operations so that you're ensuring wide coverage across the organization. Next, we're going to be talking about coding guidelines. When we talk about design reviews, when we talk about code reviews, all of these activities are reactive activities because you're reviewing them after the design is done. You're looking at the code after it's already implemented. What about doing some proactive activities? And so coding guidelines is one form of proactive activity where you're providing some guidelines to engineers on how do you do things securely. And I know that I am here at an OWASP meetup, but what I would also like to say is that all of these top 10 lists, they are awesome to know how widespread an issue is. Like injection attacks, yes, it's one of the top issues because it's everywhere. But they are not an indication of what's happening in your own organization. Maybe because of all of the platforms that you use, maybe the secure libraries that you use, the frameworks, maybe injection attacks are not a common attack for you or an issue in your organization. So then don't give it special attention during training or creating coding guidelines or when you're looking for toolings, testing rule sets in your pipelines. Don't give them special attention because they are not found in your organization. So identify, look at the data, identify and create your own top 10 list, and then use that list to mature your application security program. And the last building block that we're going to be talking about today is metrics. Every application security program has a common goal: to identify and mitigate risk. But how do you even know what program initiatives can you work on? What are some of these other organizations doing? So take a look at the maturity models. Like BSIM, OWASP, SAM to determine where are you today? What are others doing? Where do you need to be in your application security program to call it a mature program? So, maturity models could give you a viewpoint into where are you and where do you need to go. Honestly, when I started working on metrics, it was pretty intimidating. And I'm still intimidated because there's a lot there. There's a lot of buzzwords in this space. So I look at it as in two ways. And I'm still evolving here, right? We are still evolving our metrics at Duo Security. But essentially, operational metrics inform me how are my initiatives doing. They give me data about my initiatives that then I can analyze and determine what is the health of my initiatives. Whereas business metrics are the metrics that inform my leadership on how is the application security program doing? What is the health of our application security program? And so an example here, right? When I look at defect management, at Duo, we get defects from a variety of sources. We get them from tooling, we get them from manual assessments, we get them from PSAT activities. So when I look at, I can use the number of defects that are got from each of these sources to determine what is giving me the most number of issues. How can I go from the PSAT reported issues, to tooling reported issues? So this is going to help me mature my program. Whereas my leadership, my management wants to know how many bugs have been open, how many critical bugs have been open for how long. What do our SLAs look like? Have we remediated all of our critical and high priority bugs in within the SLOs or the SLAs that have been defined? Another example is like training. If we are getting training, I want to look at how many trainees are attending per class. If we have, like two trainees attending per class, is it worth it? Do we have to evolve the training program? But then management is looking at what is the percentage of employees that have been trained annually? And so, to bring it all together for a sustainable AppSec program, all of these building blocks, when they are implemented in collaboration and with empathy, it will ensure that you have a mature and a sustainable AppSec program. And at Duo, we really believe in being kinder than necessary. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for this time. I am happy to talk about any of these topics in further detail. This talk was just to provide a basic introduction to some of these concepts and these basic building blocks. But I'm happy to talk about any of these blocks in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Apurva.
Thank you very much. I can second everything you said there. Very close to a lot of the activities that you covered. So if you're not gonna work with the devs to enable them and make things easier, they're just gonna go around you, and they're not even gonna invite you to the meetings anymore. So by all means, your approach is very welcomed.
Thank you. Does anybody have any experiences to share on where some of these things have worked, where maybe they haven't worked, and so what could we evolve?
Yeah, so I think hi, this is Stephen Legg talking. Nice to chat with you finally. I was going to say one of the common struggles I've seen with clients in the past is taking an existing development team that is already kind of operationalized some aspects of this in ways that are not scalable, and kind of fitting a methodology like this into the fold, and bringing those processes and kind of legacy approaches up to snuff has been a place where I see a lot of breakdowns and a lot of conflict in those circles. So I think the approach that you laid out is really smart. And I guess the question that I have around it is, what do you say to those development leaders who are struggling to get their teams to kind of connect these dots that you've connected, and build security into the mindset of those developers rather than just making it an individual task or objective that they have to hit?
That's a great question, Stephen. Some of the things that we look at Duo is how can we talk the developer language? Because when I am thinking about security, you know, everything is critical for me. Everything is high priority for me. Everything is severe severity, like risky for me. And so how can I talk their language to make them see what is the actual risk of getting this in, or can we sort of delay it, maybe a sprint, maybe a two sprints. And so what has it's really like when we engage with engineering and developers to actually understand where are they coming from, that really helps us build that relationship. Like, I'll give you an example. We were talking with one of our engineering teams because we really wanted them to fix one of the issues, and to plan and prioritize. And we were struggling to get like a remediation timeline from them. When would that fix be in? And when we started talking to each other, we found out that the way the team operates is they have multiple products that they own. And so it's really challenging for them to even figure out when are they going to next deploy. They don't have biweekly sprints, and so they don't release every 2 weeks, but they figure out when the next release will happen depending on what product that they work on and how much was it done. And so, for the way they operate, it's hard for them to give us a release date, like 6 months prior. And when we found that out, the ask went from, can instead of giving us a date of when the fix will go in, how about we determine that whenever you have a fix in the next 6 months, whenever you have a release in the next 6 months, you will get this fix in. And that seemed to be a good common sort of work, a common thing that seemed agreeable to both, like to AppSec as well as engineering. And so for us, it's really helped that we understand, where are they coming from, and we try to meet them in the middle. I don't know if that answered your question, but let me know if you have any extra thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, that you definitely answered my question, because you kind of hit the nail on the head. You use their common language and understanding of kind of how they approach and problem solving and achieving their ends, and you met them in the middle, but what you really did was contextualize your ask in their language so that they would buy into it and come on board with that concept in that time frame, right? So that's, yeah, you absolutely answered. Thank you for that. And I guess as a follow-up question to that, for folks that have implemented some of these things but want to continue to improve, is there a particular framework or, I guess, set of tools or context that you find most helpful for, I guess, discussing those challenges, or is that best done as, a review of KPIs over a quarter, or by project, or release, or what does that look like from your perspective?
Is it possible for you to reframe your question? I'm not sure I understand it right.
Sure. So for teams that have operationalized their application security and have began to implement a lot of the measures that you described in your talk and what we just kind of talked about, and are starting to work with the security team, when there are breakdowns, or you want to continue to improve those results, or fine tune problems that come up as you're implementing those, do you contextualize that conversation in terms of the metrics you use to identify those behaviors, or are you doing it more from the context of the developers and kind of how they're experiencing it? What's your 2 cents there?
That's actually a great question. So, what we've also started to look at is as we collaborate with engineering and as we start working with them even more, as we start, moving, sort of aligning our methodology, our way of operating with the way they do it, can we also evolve some of these success criteria that we're looking at? So instead of looking at like how many design reviews did we do, can we start looking at how many artifacts did we create when we collaborated with engineering? So do we have threat models for all of our applications? When did we get involved to create the threat models? Do we have any requirements that we worked that were actually implemented in the products? So as we start increasing the maturity of our program, we also started looking at our success criteria, our metrics, because they need to evolve according to what we are doing as well. And so as we are starting to evolve, mature our program, we are also taking a look at our success measures and figuring if can we make them more mature instead of just saying how many defects did I get, but when did I get my defects? When were they remediated? Did automation help me with that? Things like that.
Right. So you're doing more of like a meta-analysis between relevant metrics that pertain to outcomes that you're looking at and that you're
Right.
trying to drive at. That makes perfect sense. Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Awesome. Well, Apurva, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. We really appreciate you being here with us. Typically, we kind of continue the conversation and at least hang out till around 8:30. You're welcome to stick around and chat with everybody until then. We really appreciate you coming out and sharing. This is a great talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me today. It was fun. I was a little worried because of my Zoom issues, and so I was worried in the beginning as to how am I going to be able to share my screen and things like that. But I'm glad at least we were sort of over the technical issues.
Yeah, no, it was great. I really cannot thank you enough, and thanks for coming on such short notice. It's such a great opportunity to have you here. So I guess with that.